Well, my friends, welcome back to Spot On with Link Lauren, a show where we're going to break down the calamities of Hollywood, the circus of Washington, D.C., and everything in between. We've got a jam-packed show for you today, but we have to start off with a feel-good story. Yesterday at the White House, it was Bring Your Kid to Work Day, or as they're calling it, Bring Your Sons and Daughters to Work Day. It's basically the same thing, just a little bit longer. And it was really heartwarming to see Caroline Leavitt, our incredible White House press secretary, who's also a mother herself and juggles it all beautifully. She held a press conference for all the little kids. We have a clip. Take a look.
What's Donald Trump's favorite ice cream? He wants to know. Ooh.
I have seen the president eat ice cream sundaes before with chocolate sauce and some toppings too. Raise your hand if you like ice cream sundaes. It's a very popular policy position to have.
A very popular policy position. That's also a question they would have asked Joe Biden in a serious sit-down interview on CNN. President Trump doesn't ever get those softball questions. Those are all for Joe Biden the last 4 years. What's your favorite kind of ice cream? Do you like ice cream sundaes? But with all the chaos in the world and how disgusting politics can be sometimes, I just loved to see that. But there's one woman I don't love so much who used to occupy the White House, and that is Michelle Obama. So Michelle Obama has been on a little bit of a podcast tour. She's promoting her own podcast. I don't know what the hell it is called, and I don't care. So production, do not tell me in my ear, but Michelle Obama has a new podcast with her brother. So she's going on all these different podcasts to promote it. Basically, it's a bunch of therapy sessions that we're all being subjected to. Now, there are a lot of women, Michelle Obama, Megyn Markle, Mel Robbins, a lot of wealthy women who think they need to put microphones in their house and start complaining about everything going on in their lives. And I know what you're thinking. Link, you just started your new podcast. You're sitting here in your house. Yes, but I'm not worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't get on here to complain about my family and how miserable my life is. So Michelle Obama, not only was she first lady, she's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She has mansions in Martha's Vineyard. She gets on these shows and she just constantly complains. And the level of narcissism from Michelle Obama, I really haven't seen it before, except in Megyn Markle and some of these other women on the national stage. Now, we have some clips we're going to play you and walk down memory lane of Michelle Obama's podcast tour. Let's roll the first clip. Try not to vomit.
People line up for my advice. Mm-hmm. And you're walking away like I'm stupid. It's like, I've written books. I've given speeches. The whole world has listened to me.
The whole world is listening to me. I've written books. I've given speeches. I'm going to say something that we're really not supposed to say. The only reason Michelle Obama is famous is because of the man she married. This is very Meghan Markle-esque, right? Meghan Markle is couching herself as this female founder. She's this entrepreneurial woman. She's this smart soothsayer and prophet. No, you are famous because you bagged an eligible bachelor prince, Meghan Markle. And Michelle Obama, she says, people line up for my advice. People buy my books. I imagine you're probably not buying Michelle Obama's books. If I know my people, I imagine you're not buying her books. I also have to say, I think her book is called Becoming, or she did a documentary called Becoming. And then she was on another show talking about how she's transitioning. Michelle Obama, you need to drop some of these words ending in ing because you sound cringe and terrible. Let's take a look at another horrific podcast clip from Michelle Obama.
Well, in this current climate for me, it's, what's happening to immigrants. So it's not the fear for myself anymore. I drive around in a 4-car motorcade with a police escort. I'm Michelle Obama. I do still worry about my daughters in the world, even though they are somewhat recognizable. So my fears are for what I know is happening out there in streets all over the city. And now that we have leadership that is sort of indiscriminately determining who belongs and who doesn't, I worry for people of color all over this country. And I don't know that we will have the advocates to protect everybody. And that frightens me. It keeps me up at night.
Michelle Obama complaining about deportations when her husband, Barack Obama, was called the deporter in chief is laughable. What was she doing in the White House? Did she not know that her husband was deporting millions of people as well? Criminals who did not belong in the country. But Michelle Obama is becoming one of the most unlikable women in politics, and she just won't go away. She's like a rash you get after spring break in Fort Lauderdale. You try everything, it just sticks around and sticks around. That doesn't apply to me. I'm clean as a whistle, but some of you might know what I'm talking about. And that is who Michelle Obama is. She's becoming this really unlikable woman, and I have to laugh. Do you guys remember that Democrat mainstream media fever dream about a year ago? They were pushing Joe Biden out of the race. They're like, yep, the guy is senile. We all saw it on the June 27th debate on CNN. He can no longer run. And they were talking about having a mini primary. Maybe it's going to be Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala Harris. Maybe it's Gavin Newsom. And they were talking about running Michelle Obama. Thank God they did not run Michelle Obama, because guess what? She would have lost horrifically. Well, actually, maybe y'all should have run her. But the thing about Michelle Obama is she was so likable. She had the highest favorability of almost anybody in politics, but it's because she kept her mouth shut. Okay? The fastest way to become unlikable is if you open your mouth and start talking. And I don't know who told Michelle Obama that we want to hear her go on every podcast and complain about the issues in our country. You guys had 8 years. It's time to pass the baton. But they were really out here saying, we could do Michelle Obama. We could do Gavin Newsom. We could do these two together. I would have loved to have seen that, because Michelle Obama's favorability has plummeted in the last few weeks since she started doing podcasts. Imagine if she was actually on the campaign trail having to interact with journalists and all she does is complain about how rich and famous she is. We have another clip of Michelle Obama. Let's look at this one.
We don't articulate as Black women our pain because it's almost like nobody ever gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
We have to ask ourselves, the men in our lives is, why wait to be asked? It seems like what we go through is pretty obvious. I mean, maybe we're not complaining, but we're actually living life out loud.
Michelle Obama saying she doesn't articulate her pain is laughable because all she is doing is articulating how miserable she is. People come to me for my advice. Why the hell would I go to Michelle Obama for advice when all she does is complain? Imagine going to see a therapist and the therapist spending an hour telling you how miserable their life is in their mansion in Martha's Vineyard. Now, I do have a few things in common with Michelle Obama. We both love gay men. I'm just kidding. I don't want to get sniped on my walk this afternoon, but there was a little dicey situation with the chef. I don't know how you drown paddleboarding in a few feet of water, but I will leave that up to you guys to discuss. So Michelle Obama, all she does is articulate her pain. Let's look at another clip, you guys.
How would we afford it? Because it's expensive to live in the White House. As many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel to be on the plane. It is an expensive proposition, and you're running for 2 years and not earning an income. So all of that was in my mind. How would we manage this?
I'm so sorry, Michelle Obama. You had to pay for your own food like every other person on fucking planet Earth. I am so sorry you had to pay for your grilled cheese and your hamburgers. And also, let's not forget, you and Barack Obama were successful attorneys. Okay, she talks about how she was this big, accomplished, successful attorney in Chicago. Don't tell me you guys were broke. You also had book deals and other things going on. So the fact that, we had to pay for our own food, and you guys know as well as I do, allegedly, there's a lot of Democrat money. There are a ton of super PACs and groups and these groups that you don't even know about. This narrative that Michelle and Barack Obama were in the White House counting coins and quarters and dollars to pay for their food is a bunch of malarkey. Okay, Michelle Obama, you are full of crap. But apparently she doesn't want to cook either. So she doesn't want to pay for her food, but she doesn't want to cook either. Let's roll that clip.
Do you cook? I love to cook. I know you don't cook.
I do not.
But I didn't start cooking until my 40s.
It's
never too late, Michelle.
I cooked before.
Oh, and then you stopped.
Well, I became first lady.
And then you can't cook? They don't let you cook?
Well, I didn't. I was busy.
But are you cooking now?
No. No, it's not on my agenda at all. It's not among the things that I want to do in this stage in life.
So she doesn't want to pay for her food. She doesn't want to cook. She's complaining about flying on the private jet, and she has to pay for her girls to fly on the private jet. This is relatable. Michelle Obama, my advice to you is shut the hell up. Stop talking. But no, imagine all the single moms out there, all the parents out there who are working 2, 3 jobs, trying to pay their bills. Why would Michelle Obama be the person the Democrats want to run? The fact that that was even a fever dream or a pipe dream when she is the most unrelatable person. Imagine Michelle Obama on a debate stage against Trump. She's going, man, I had to pay for my groceries in the White House. That really sucked, you guys. That is Michelle Obama. That is Miss Relatable Michelle Obama, down to earth. I also just have to say, okay, I'm really not that catty of a person. If you met me in real life, I'm a lot nicer than I am on here. But Michelle Obama, who the hell is your stylist? I mean, is Michelle Obama's team of stylists like Helen Keller and Stevie Wonder? Because her outfits are an utter calamity. And Vogue and all these liberals, they have the audacity to attack Melania Trump, beautiful First Lady Melania Trump, when Michelle Obama has Spaceballs on her head. What the hell is growing out of her head, sweetheart? You might want to get that checked out. So no, Michelle Obama looks like a disaster. She's complaining about having to pay for her own food. She's complaining she doesn't want to cook either. And she did have a personal chef until he drowned in 2 feet of water paddleboarding in Martha's Vineyard. So Michelle Obama doesn't want to cook. They might want to find a new personal chef. Rest in peace to the hot personal chef. We still don't have a lot of answers on that one. So Michelle Obama is just incredibly unlikable. She's not relatable. And there's actually a place where I send women like Michelle Obama, not just women, there's some men too, but I call them the unbearables, right? Blake Lively, she's incredibly unbearable. Megyn Markle, Michelle Obama. I will send all of them to Bitch Island, okay? Bitch Island, it's a little bit like Guantanamo, it's a little bit like Gitmo, but there are a few more amenities, right? Unfortunately for Michelle Obama, she might have to pay for her own food on Bitch Island. She might have to scavenge and hunt and gather for, coconuts, aloe vera. Michelle Obama, I'm not sure she would really enjoy Bitch Island, but this is where I'm going to send her because she complains and she bitches every single day. There are other women I'd like to send to Bitch Island too. Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, pretty much the entire cast of The View. Rachel Maddow, I'd probably send her to Bitch Island also, but she's making $25 million a year. She could probably call a helicopter to get her off the island. But Michelle Obama, you are getting sent to Bitch Island because all you do is bitch and complain, and you're incredibly unlikable. And I see now, guys, why there's so many divorce rumors with Barack and Michelle. If I had to come home to a nagging woman like Michelle Obama, who doesn't want to cook, and she also doesn't want to buy groceries, and we don't have a chef, and she complains that the private jet, she has to pay to go on the private jet. Oh, so sorry for you, sweetheart. If I had to come home to that, I'd probably be looking for Jen Aniston or something else too. I don't know who Barack Obama is dating. They want us to think there's no trouble in paradise. But the fact of the matter is, I've been around long enough to know where there's smoke, there's fire. And with Michelle Obama, something is rotten in Denmark. A woman who is happy at home, number one, does not go out there on podcast and complain about how miserable she is. And she also says she worries about her daughters out there in the world. I am so scared for my daughters. But then she follows it up and says, well, my daughters have full Secret Service protection at all times. Yeah, I'm worried about other people who are out on the streets because they're violent gang members and criminals that Joe Biden, Barack Obama's VP, let into the country. Okay, so I'm not going to cry for you, Argentina, Michelle Obama, that your daughters are out there with Secret Service. I'm so sorry that they have to go around with Secret Service. But all Michelle Obama does is complain. We have one last clip. Let's take a look and then discuss.
I should have said that I needed his team to really, truly value that he had a family. That I shouldn't have just said, well, this is what it takes to get this done. I mean, it was almost like the consultants that sit around. It was almost like this is the way it has to be. And remember, the legacy of presidential office doesn't recognize families. It is not designed, You get in there and it all revolves around the commander-in-chief, who has always been a man. And the whole system of it doesn't really take into account that there's a wife and kids and their needs and the demands on them. So I wound up having to fight for a lot of stuff on my own.
So Michelle Obama is complaining that the White House isn't conducive to kids. I don't think this is a White House problem. I think this is a you problem. Maybe this is an issue with Barack Obama. Maybe he's not the sweet, nice, cool guy he purports himself to be. Because if we look at the White House under President Donald J. Trump, his kids are around constantly, okay? Eric Trump was at the White House yesterday. Ivanka Trump was there with her kids. They were throwing the football. They were there for the Philadelphia Eagles, Eagles, okay? It was beautiful. But President Donald J. Trump has his kids around all the time. In fact, people complain, the liberal media complains, why is he so close with his family? Why are his kids in there? Oh, they must be up to no good. No, maybe his kids are just actually good kids and he wants them around. And then also Barron Trump grew up in the White House and he seems to be doing great and flourishing. So I don't think Michelle Obama can blame the White House. This is a you problem. This is a staffing problem. This is not a White House problem because Donald Trump has his kids around constantly. And the clip we played you at the top of the show, there were hundreds, maybe thousands of kids at the White House for Bring Your Sons and Daughters to Work Day. It was beautiful. Caroline Levitt has a baby. There's so many babies in the White House because so many of the staff, they are young parents and they're balancing that work-life balance everybody tries to have so desperately. So Michelle Obama, I really have no sympathy for you. I don't think any of this is helping your image. You don't need the money. You can't be making that much money from the podcast. You're already worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So if I were Michelle Obama, I'd probably stop talking. I'd probably go away. And she's going to go online now and say, they're telling me to shut up because I'm a strong woman. No, we're telling you to shut up because you're complaining about flying on a private jet when there are people trying to put food on the table, right? Everybody was crippled under sky-high inflation that Joe Biden left us with the last 4 years. And now things are starting to turn around. But for Michelle Obama to complain, I had to pay for my own food. And then my personal chef drowned. And then we had to fly on the private jet. And I had to pay for my girls to go on vacation. You know what, you guys? Because you're elite Democrats, you had money thrown at you. The same way Bill and Hillary Clinton allegedly left the White House in debt, and they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars now. That's what happens if you're part of the Democratic elite. People just throw money at you. George Soros, all of these wealthy folks, Alex Soros, there's always going to be work for you. So Michelle Obama has Netflix deals, book deals, speaking tours. I'm sure she'll do a fashion line even though she looks like a disaster. So Michelle Obama, no sympathy for you. We have a lot more hot topics to come back with. I will see you guys after the break. We just have to pay some bills because you know what? We're not Michelle Obama and we don't live in Martha's Vineyard. See you soon. We've all had days when skin feels dull, hydration doesn't stick, and energy is all over the place. No amount of water, skincare, or coffee seems to help. That's when Peak's Radiant Skin Duo came to the rescue, and it's been a game changer ever since. This doctor-recommended duo, trusted by experts like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Jason Fung, and Dr. Will Cole, supports whole body wellness from the inside out. With over 15,000 five-star reviews, it's clear this duo delivers results. Here's why it works. Sun Goddess Matcha provides steady, calm energy throughout the day, no jitters, packed with L-theanine for focus and EGCG antioxidants. It supports skin clarity and gut health because great skin starts from within. BT Fountain electrolytes hydrate like nothing else. Even with plenty of water, many still feel dehydrated. The difference? Clinically proven ceramides lock moisture into the skin at a cellular level, leaving it plump, fresh, and glowing. Purity matters. Peak's quadruple toxin screening ensures all ingredients are free from heavy metals, pesticides, and mold, just clean, science-backed hydration and energy. Say goodbye to fatigue, dry skin, and energy crashes. Ready for healthier hydration. Get 20% off plus a free frother and glass beaker here. peaklife.com/link. Again, That's peaklife.com/link. So there are more bombshell revelations in this new book, Original Sin, by Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper. We'll get to that a little bit later, but this new bombshell was obtained by the New York Post. They got an early copy of the book. We're not at that level yet. We're not getting early copies of the book, but that's fine because I don't need a book to tell me that Joe Biden was in serious cognitive decline. I had eyes and ears like the rest of you. We could all see it for ourselves. Basically, going back to 2015, the man was not well. But in this new bombshell revelation, they talk about when Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, Miss Kamalamity, decided to really cut ties with Joe Biden. And this is when Joe Biden put on the Trump MAGA hat. Now, most of us remember this because it went super, super viral. He was meeting with voters and someone handed him a Trump hat, which he put on. He was laughing. He was joking. I did videos on this at the time. I thought even though Joe Biden is senile, he is doing this on purpose because it's a dig at Kamala Harris. He is not happy that his own party shanked him and threw him out like the garbage, even though they should have done it years prior. So he's having fun. Joe Biden's like, I give 0 Fs anymore. I'm putting on a Trump hat. I said all along, as soon as they push Biden out, I'm like, Jill, Hunter, and Joe, they want Trump to win. Remember when Joe Biden was wearing the red suit to go vote? I thought that was very symbolic for a woman who's apparently into fashion, even though she looks like a streetwalker half the time. So I felt like the Bidens were dropping hints that they were happy Trump won. I think Biden was like, you know what? If it's not gonna be me, it better be that other guy. It better be Trump. So no, when Joe Biden put on this Trump hat, Kamala Harris said she was really gonna cut ties with him. We actually have a quote. She said, "What is he doing? This is completely unhelpful and so unnecessary." Yeah, sweetheart, that's the point because y'all shanked him and threw him out like the garbage, okay? But you're not much better, Kamala. You are actually worse. What I find so funny about Kamala Harris, they want to talk about Joe Biden's cognitive decline and that his brain was basically mashed potatoes, but he could still form more coherent sentences than Kamala Harris herself. Kamala Harris sounded like a freaking drunk sailor half the time, like Popeye after a bender, trying to form sentences, and they all came out as disgusting word salads. You'd ask Kamala Harris and she'd be like, well, we're unburdened by the burden of being burdened. What? Ma'am. And she wanted to be in charge of the nuclear codes. Thank God. Thank God. I thank God every day, you guys. There are a few things I do when I wake up in the morning. I go to the bathroom, number one, and then number two, I say a prayer. I say a prayer that in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, President Trump turned his head at the right time by a few millimeters, a few centimeters. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. But I am happy the man turned his head and we did not get stuck with cackling hyena Kamala Harris. Now, to circle back to the story, I just want to end by saying this. Everybody knew Kamala was trying to distance herself from Joe Biden because they stopped hosting events with Joe Biden. They stopped utilizing him on the campaign trail. They wanted nothing to do with him. But the issue with Kamala Harris is this. When she went on The View, they asked her, how are you different from Joe Biden? Sunny Hostin asked her, she sat right next to her and she said, how would you differentiate yourself from Joe Biden? Kamala Harris had absolutely no answer. She said, well, nothing really comes to mind. That was your opportunity, sweetheart. Every poll, the New York Times Siena poll, Quinnipiac, Emerson, every poll said, we want radical change. So when you're going on TV and saying you can't think of a single thing that differentiates you from Joe Biden, your president, sorry, sweetheart, that is when you really lost the election because President Trump looked like a change agent. People wanted a disruptor, and that's what they got. And that's what's happening now with Doge and all of these new people who are getting it done, getting criminals out of the country, handling the cost of eggs, inflation, housing, all of that. People wanted someone who could get it done. They did not see that with Kamala Harris. So Kamala, you can go cry me a river. Joe Biden is not the reason you lost the election. It did not help that he called half the country garbage right before the election, but nonetheless, you lost the election all on your own. Booyah, bitch. Sorry, you lost all on your own. Now, we want to get to something else that's in the news. It's another hot topic. Trump went to go address the Republicans in Congress yesterday for his big, beautiful bill, his one big, beautiful bill, which I'm hoping we can get passed very soon. But he was asked in the hallway about the use of the Autopen by Joe Biden. Let's roll the clip and then discuss.
Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that could want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? This is a very serious thing. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the Autopen signed it.
I'm glad President Trump said what we are all thinking. I told you guys in the last episode, I am sorry Joe Biden has cancer. I send my condolences to the family, sure. But the fact of the matter is, his cancer diagnosis does not absolve him of his alleged crimes. We still deserve investigations. We are tax-paying citizens, right? We pay for Joe Biden. We pay the salaries of everybody who worked in the White House under him. So we deserve to know who was controlling the auto pen. Did Biden know when he was affixing his name to documents what he was signing? Did he sign those pardons of Hunter and all the other family members and people he signed on the way out? We are allowed to ask these questions, and I'm glad President Trump is out there saying what we are all thinking, because that is what he does. He also brought up a very good point about Joe Biden. He probably didn't want open borders. Biden was not that radical left. In fact, when he ran as this peacemaker, this moderate guy, and I think because he was so far gone, the unelected bureaucrats came in, this conspiracy of silence, this sort of circle of shadow advisors, they came in and started pulling the puppet strings. But Joe Biden was very staunch on immigration, right? Joe Biden was very staunch on crime. He was one of the biggest proponents of the 1994 crime bill before I was alive. No wrinkles, no lines. But Joe Biden was never into all of this bullshit. I have a hard time believing he wanted millions of illegal migrants and criminals to pour into the country. I have a hard time believing in Joe Biden's heart of hearts, he would want men and women's sports, especially with all those granddaughters, but you're not off the hook, okay? And the unelected advisors, you guys aren't off the hook either, and we deserve investigations into who was controlling the auto pen. Let me catch my breath. Whoever was controlling the auto pen was rolling and ruling the country, okay? They were running the show, and we deserve to know what was going on. Now, to move on from Joe Biden, we have to talk about Taylor Lorenz, former New York Times journalist, former Washington Post journalist. In full transparency, Taylor Lorenz actually wrote a profile on me that was quite nice back in April of 2024. So Taylor Lorenz and I, we had to interact at that time. She was interviewing me, calling me. There were some contentious moments. I remember the Washington Post was digging and digging and digging, and they couldn't find any dirt on me. And Taylor Lorenz called and she expressed, they were looking for this and looking for that, and they couldn't find any dirt. And I remember saying to Taylor Lorenz, you might have to accept that I'm just a decent person. You guys might have to accept I'm a good person, right? I don't commit crimes. I've never said the N-word. I haven't done any of the things that are disqualifying from being in public life. And I told Taylor Lorenz, you might have to accept that I'm a good, decent person, Taylor. And the profile ended up being okay, to Taylor Lorenz's credit. She has since left the Washington Post, and she's now on her own. She's going into independent media, which is her prerogative. We're in independent media right now. It's basically trumping and usurping legacy media. But Taylor Lorenz, since she's gone into independent media, she's really just letting it rip and expressing herself. And she put out a tweet about Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis, and we have the quote right here. Okay, Taylor Lorenz said, hopefully he rots in hell and rests in piss. Hopefully he rots in hell and rests in piss. Now, I called my producer immediately and I said, we have to put this in the show, number one. Number two, I thought I went hard on Joe Biden. I thought I went really hard on the man in last episode. I mean, I called the entire Biden family white trash. I took him to the mat. I said they were disgusting. I said Jill Biden's disgusting. Basically, I thought I went hard, but when she said he rots in hell and rests in piss, I mean, I have some relatives who would probably say that about me. But no, Taylor Lorenz, I think this has to do with some of the sentiment she shared a few months ago about Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, when she said Americans felt joy that Brian Thompson was murdered in cold blood on the streets of New York City by Luigi Mangione. And the thing is this, We've talked about the healthcare system. I worked on the Kennedy campaign with RFK Jr., who's now the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I am acutely aware of how our healthcare system is broken. But shooting people, shooting people who have families and kids and wives and friends for seemingly no reason is not the way to go. That is really not how you bring about radical change. I understand when you want to go see a doctor, I have to call and get it approved and call this person and basically barter with my life to even get in and get a checkup. So I don't even end up going to the doctor too much. And then you go and they really don't have any answers and you go home pissed off. I'm sure a million of you have had that same experience. So Taylor Lorenz, sure, she's unhappy with our healthcare system, join the club. But telling Joe Biden, I hope he rots in hell and rests in piss, really makes me look like child's play. So thank you, Taylor. You make me look quite innocent for the things I said about the Biden family in the last episode. So now, what we have to end with on this block, in this segment, to use some production terms, Megyn Kelly, my boss, Megyn Kelly, who is producing the show, mother of all mothers, our queen. I am now on MK Media. That is where we're coming to you right now. Megyn Kelly had Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson on her show yesterday, and she really took them to task over their book about Biden's decline. She's going super viral this morning. We all couldn't be happier for her. But I want to look at one of these clips, and then we'll talk about it.
And Alex and I are here to say that conservative media was right and conservative media was correct, and that there should be a lot of soul searching, not just among me, but among the legacy media to begin with, all of us, for how this was covered or not covered sufficiently. 100%. So, I mean, I'm not here to defend coverage that I've already acknowledged I wish I could do differently. Megyn, we didn't come on the show thinking that this was going to be a softball interview. I understand. Like, listen. And conservative media absolutely has every right to say we were hip to this and the legacy media was not. Now, I do not accept that I was part of a cover-up. I do not accept that I was just providing cover for Joe Biden. I think a lot of these clips are not fair. The one that is fair is the Laura Trump clip, and I own it.
I am glad Jake Tapper is admitting that conservative media was right. But it wasn't just conservative media, because there were Democrat voters saying Joe Biden is not well. We don't want Joe Biden to run again. In fact, Joe Biden said, I'm going to do one term and then dip out to the retirement home and live my life in peace. Okay? Or as Taylor Lorenz said, live my life in piss, apparently. So no, there are Democrat voters who didn't want Joe Biden to run. But conservative media, we were the ones saying time and time again. I made hundreds of videos starting in about 2022. We're now in 2025, detailing Biden's decline, every gaffe, every misstep, every mistake. And we gave the man grace. Jake Tapper on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday, he said, well, Biden, he often put his foot in his mouth. He often said the wrong thing. But the fact of the matter is, this was not just putting your foot in your mouth. Joe Biden was really a disaster. It was clear to anybody with eyes and ears that the man was not doing well. But Jake Tapper, you did run cover. You did run cover. I know you want to do revisionist history and ingratiate yourself now to conservative media because you want to have a future career. CNN's ratings are in the gutter. You want to be loved by conservative media, so you're falling on the sword. But no, when you had Laura Trump on, you pushed on her, you demeaned her, you denigrated her for bringing up the fact that Joe Biden seemed to be in serious cognitive decline. So Jake Tapper, it's nice now you want to come around and admit that all of us were right, but there were folks like me and folks like you who were basically eviscerated for pointing out clear as day that Joe Biden was not doing well. I mean, there were shows I couldn't get booked on because I was so hard on Biden. There was a CNN show that called me multiple times, Jake Tapper, a CNN show where they said, we're going to send a car for you. You're booked for tonight. We can't wait to have you on the panel. And then apparently I was too right of center for them. I wasn't too Democrat enough. I didn't fit their talking points. Always canceled on me. So when CNN and Jake Tapper decide to have more of a cornucopia of voices on their network from conservative media, then we can talk, but you're not putting your money where your mouth is. The only conservative on CNN who's been calling balls and strikes is Scott Jennings. He's the token, amazing, incredible conservative we love on CNN, but there's nobody else. And then you try to book us and you cancel us at the last minute. And the only conservative voices CNN has on are people who are basically Democrat defectors, like people who were Democrats last year and defected. So they're still sort of okay, still sort of in that CNN milieu. But no, Jake Tapper, I will believe it when I see it. It's clear that he knows podcasting and conservative media is the place to go. This was the podcast election. So he's trying to ingratiate himself to all of us. He's hired a big crisis PR firm to turn his image around. It's not working for me yet, right? It takes a lot to fool me. Fool me once, shame on you. However the saying goes, Jake Tapper not buying it. We have one last clip we want to play on Jake Tapper's apology tour because Jake Tapper is waking up to everything we have seen for years. In this clip, he discusses our favorite Hunter Biden. Take a look.
How big a factor was the Hunter stuff?
I think it was considerable. I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that he was almost like a chief of staff of the family.
Does that strike you as pretty bizarre?
It's bizarre because I think he is provably, demonstrably unethical, sleazy, and prone to horrible decisions.
I'm glad Jake Tapper is now calling Hunter Biden sleazy, which we've been doing for years. Didn't Hunter Biden start dating his deceased brother's wife? This is a man who allegedly left cocaine at the White House. Y'all know how I feel, though. I don't really buy that it was Hunter Biden's cocaine at the White House, because if it was his cocaine, he probably would have finished the entire bag down to the last morsel, okay? But Hunter Biden, he is sleazy. This is a guy who left a gun in a dumpster or something and then ran back to get the gun from the dumpster, allegedly. This is not a winner, right? And people want to talk about Donald Trump's kids. None of his kids are drug addicts, derelicts, committing crimes, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I have substance abuse in my family. There are drunks and alcoholics in my family, people who've gone to frickin' treatment. Some of you might be at home alcoholics yourself. It's come one, come all to the Halloween ball. But you have to admit, you shouldn't be chief of staff to the president calling the shots, right? If I had major glaring issues in my life, I should not be calling the shots in Washington, D.C. But I remember, the last year of Biden's presidency, there was a ton of reporting that Hunter Biden was in there saying, you should do this, you should do that. And Hunter really thought of himself as a communications expert, right? When it came to the messaging of the White House, he wanted to be involved in all of that, which is very scary that a derelict drug addict with rotted out, gutted teeth and hookers and a laptop that Jake Tapper sort of tried to cover. I know, Jake Tapper, you don't want to bring that up. But this guy, Hunter, was chief of staff to the president and calling the shots. Yeah, he is derelict. He is sleazy. He is demonstrably a bad guy, or whatever Jake Tapper said. So that is concerning, but it's nice that Jake Tapper is coming around. The last thing I'll say about the Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson book tour, no one else wants to say this or admit it out loud. I don't think Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson even like each other. If you look at the body language, if you look at them on Megyn Kelly, Alex Thompson, the other writer on this book, he had an entirely separate book deal, okay? He was going to do a solo book deal. He had done all of this reporting on Biden's decline. That book deal fell through. They couldn't have a meeting of the minds. So he went to try and get another book deal, and they basically slapped Jake Tapper's name on this book, in my opinion. So it's funny because Jake Tapper is now late to the party on a lot of the things Alex Thompson has been saying for years. So now Jake Tapper is sitting there because he's the star. He's the household name, but I don't think these guys even like each other. We have more hot topics after the break, so stick around. I'll see you guys then. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. While on a road trip, Leo came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued that Doberman and named him Delta. Sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help, which inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, and a home. This dedication and everlasting love to animals is Leo's mission and legacy. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions from people like us. And if you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax-saving estate planning benefits too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with an advisor. We call a dog man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. So please visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Now, we have to talk about the hottest couple taking the media and the sports world by storm. That is Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson. Now, I've sort of just let this story go. I've let it slide because I'm not an expert on football whatsoever. I have in my notes that this man was the coach of the New England Patriots. That's great. That's amazing. He's now the coach at UNC. I love North Carolina. I love the Tar Heels. I grew up in North Carolina every single summer. The boys at UNC are quite cute. I might have to come visit. But I did not know that much about the lore and the backstory of Bill Belichick, right? I was Googling him. He's allegedly worth $75 million. He's 73 years old. His girlfriend, Jordon Hudson, is 24 years old. That is a 49-year age gap. And for all of you hating on them, love is love. Love is love. We have some pictures we'll put up. Don't tell me this couple is not madly in love. They are living their best lives. I think the media and a lot of these sports fans are melting down. They say she's a gold digger. She's in it for money. She's taking over his life. She's taking over his career. Let me just tell you, she's doing exactly what she should be doing at 24 years old. You think she's with this 73-year-old man for shits and giggles because, you know, he's just so virile and hot? I don't know, that he does look kind of handsome. I will say Bill Belichick, he looks good when he's not wearing like ratty, torn up t-shirts. But the fact of the matter is, everybody wants to eviscerate her as if he's not involved. And I'm not some big feminist icon. I'm probably the least woke person you will meet. Okay, I look very woke, but when you meet me, I'm not that woke. I really am not going to hate on this couple. Now, I did do a tweet and said I'm doing some research on Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson. My phone basically broke from all of the responses of people saying she's disgusting, she's a gold digger, she's horrible, she's come in and taken over his life. But one thing I will say, as someone who worked on a presidential campaign, when you go to DC, you go to the Russell Senate building, you go to Capitol Hill, you go to the White House, there are tons of young people in their 20s making huge decisions. If you go to the White House in the West Wing, there are young folks in their early 20s putting together huge briefs and making big decisions. When congressmen go to vote, they're asking their little staffers, okay, what are we voting on? What is this for? What are we doing? Who am I meeting with? So it's not crazy to me that you have this 24-year-old enterprising, entrepreneurial young woman who's coming in and filing trademarks. She's now calling the shots on documentaries. She's with him at practice. I almost just called it rehearsal. Shows you how much of a recovering theater kid I am. She's joining him at football practice, not rehearsal. And so for Jordon Hudson, yeah, they want to eviscerate her, but what is she supposed to do? And I also will say this, and I feel this way about Alec Baldwin and Ilaria Baldwin. These successful, wealthy men, they don't surrender or cede land unless they want to, okay? I know some folks say this might be elder abuse, and that could be. There's some folks that say this might be undue influence, which is sort of the same thing, right? Maybe he's not fully capacitated, he's being taken advantage of. He apparently, according to the notes, just signed some 5-year contract to continue coaching. He seems to be hunky-dory and doing just fine. And so I don't think there's an element of undue influence with Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick. It might just be, you know what? He wants to date a hot, young, fit 24-year-old who's smart. She knows how to work the TV remote. She knows how to work his phone. And as someone who's always been with guys who are older than me, let me just tell you, if you can show them how to turn their phone on and off, do not disturb, that will win you so many brownie points, okay? The amount of guys I go to their house and they don't know how to like get from HDMI 1 to 2, that is worth its weight in gold. I'm here to tell you, if you can teach a 70-year-old man how to back up his iPad, he might just put a ring on it, and that is what Bill Belichick allegedly has done. According to some more reporting, they might be engaged. She's going around telling people, this was in the New York Post, that they're engaged. There's some folks on X, they say they've seen Jordon Hudson with a big ring on her finger. And you know what? In the words of Beyonce, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. They look happy. They look in love. Who are we to judge? And the last thing I'll say is this. We have some pictures of them on the beach doing yoga. And I have to say, these are some of the most iconic couples pictures I have ever seen. If you are listening to us right now on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, you need to come to YouTube and look at what we're looking at. Basically, it's some type of yoga pose. Bill Belichick, the legs look good. The legs don't look bad to me. He's got Jordon Hudson up in the air. She's basically doing an R. Kelly, I believe I can fly. Like, she's basically like up in the air. I believe I can touch the sky. Like, literally, she's up in the air. He's got her legs. He's propelling her. It's very sensual. It's very erotic. I don't know. I'm kind of living for this couple, Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick. If this gets to you, I am on your team. As the kids would say, I am standing, okay? I am standing, you guys. I think you're amazing. I think you're incredible. And people say Jordon Hudson is coming in and taking over his business. Like I said, she might just be very entrepreneurial and smart, and he's at a stage in his life. Come on in. It's not any chip off the old block for him. Let her come in and see what she's going to do. But there was a clip recently from a CBS interview that Bill Belichick did where Jordon came in and interrupted the interview like a communications director would. Let's look at the clip and then discuss.
Jordon was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordon right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on, though Hudson has recently posted about it on Instagram.
Good for her. Why are people so upset? She's doing her job. She is running that business like Kris Jenner. Jordon Hudson came in and said, you know what? Not talking about that. We're filing a trademark. Nope, I want clearances and approvals on that documentary. She is doing the things that Bill Belichick doesn't have time for. And what all of this is going to come down to, all of it's going to come down to how does he do at the University of North Carolina? If they win, if they're doing great, if they're throwing the old pigskin around making touchdowns, people are going to have a lot of egg on their face and they're just going to have to eat crow. Who cares who he's dating, who he's in love with? They keep calling this woman power hungry. To me, what's wrong with that? Can't a young girl become rich and famous anymore? This is a tale as old as time, a tale as old as time. This is what's been going on since the primordial ooze, okay? Since the Big Bang. And from the looks of this couple, there might be some Big Bang going on later tonight. So everybody eviscerating Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick, go cry me a river. I am rooting for them. Love is love. And you know what? Get over it. I think it'll be interesting to see. The last point I'll make is this. They don't want to talk about how they met. I read an article that they allegedly met on a flight in 2021. She was on a flight reading a book, Deductive Logic, and they exchanged numbers, and apparently he signed her book. I'm sure she was reading a book on deductive logic because guess what? She's now engaged to Bill Belichick, who's worth $75 million, and she's running the entire LLC in the business. So all of you at home, go complain and go whine about it into your pillow. I am rooting for Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick. But like I always say, okay, I welcome everyone on my page. I welcome an open dialogue. Please roast me, eviscerate me, tell me why I am wrong about Bill Belichick and Jordon Hudson. And if this ends up going down, crashing in flames of glory like a Taylor Swift song, then I will also eat crow and tell you I was wrong. But this might be a relationship that can go the distance. To use a football metaphor, maybe it can go, a couple of yards. There's not much distance the relationship can go. I will say he's a septuagenarian. He's 73, going on 74. But also, if a guy's not on Social Security, I'm not interested. So everybody go whine about it. That's basically it for today. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Spot On with Link Lauren. Thank you for going to Apple and giving us 5 stars and pressing follow. Thanks for finding us on social media. Thanks for telling your friends. So much of the success of this show has been to word of mouth. We're also still figuring things out. You guys know I'm fully transparent. I tell you, we are working it out. We're trying topics. We're trying to see what you guys are interested in. So drop a comment and tell me what you want me to discuss. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. But that's all for today. I love you guys. I will see you on the next one. Bye.